Hello. In the Crown of Aragon 639 years ago, it was June 4th, 1387. My name is Jonathan Seyfried. I'm a PhD candidate in history at the University of New Mexico, and this is the Historian's Notebook, a podcast about how history gets made. Season 1 is titled Multcara Compagnona. We're looking at a document from each day of the first year of the reign of King Joan I of Aragon and Queen Violante de Bar. Let's begin today's document. Today's document takes us even deeper into the vagaries of how the Chancery operated, with a weird twist that I cannot quite figure out in view of yesterday's document when we were looking at one from Violante, written in large part by her chancellor, Bernard de Pontes. Also, for today's episode, we have a feline guest, my cat, Ghost. She's here, and she is not settled, so we might hear from her, but she might decide to behave herself and not participate vocally in the podcast today. We'll see what happens, but she is right here listening along with all of you. Okay, let's get back to the document. So this document is in the Commune Register from Joan. It's actually the document that picks up right after the one from the day before yesterday. And so it's on folio 161R, and then a couple lines of its end, plus the probata, on folio 161V. And all right, let's get into the apparatus here. The beginning of the document is basically where we find the addressee. It is Fideli Nostro Francisco Palasol, our loyal Francisco Palasol. And he is the he's the paratori. I don't quite know what a paratori is, but some kind of official. It's not a procurator because there's no C, unless the scribe messed up, but I don't know. All right, but anyway, it's in the city of Perpignan, and then we've got salutum et gratiam toward the end of the second line. The probata is where things get weird, because the chancellor who signed the document in Violante's register yesterday, Bernardus de Ponte, is the person who's acting as the chancery scribe for today's document in the probata. Unless there was more than one Bernard de Ponte. I mean, it's not exactly the most uncommon sounding name, but I don't think there could have been more than one. So in the probata, we have a very clear Bernardus de Ponte. Pontem, I think, is how we would expand that abbreviation. Then an MA with a macron for mandavit. And then in the second line of the probata, we have ex factum per. So made from. Then we've got another primary name, a berengar. The BNG is almost always a berengar. Then we have day, and then it gets weird because we have the word relato. Now, I guess that could be a surname. It is very weird that it's occurring in the probata as that surname because it is also in Latin a past perfect participle. Oh my gosh, hold on. I messed that up. It's in the past tense. It's the perfect tense, which is one of the past tenses. All right, it's a perfect passive participle. This is the grammatical construction that in English we say having been. So it's when the verb is turned into an adjective. So something like having been reported, which is what I would translate relato in if I was sure that it was functioning as a verb in this probata. Well, maybe that's how I'm going to translate it, even though I'm not sure. Because I just can't see that would just be so weird. But then there's no surname for the Berenguer, and there's a day, which means that there should be a surname. Is this a mistake from Bernardes de Pontem? I don't know. Maybe he's really busy doing double duty as a chancery scribe and as a chancellor. What is going on here? Well, the next line of the probata is not much help because then we just get to consil, et, and then we've got pro, and then we have something that would have really stumped me if not for another part of the document. I think that this is something like magistram, and then really hard to read at the end there, but I think it is ration or something like rationalis. Why do I think that? Okay. Well, the answer is in line 14 of the document on folio 161R. The end there mentions the royal, or the, how do we say? Yeah, I think the royal treasury record keeping unit. Oh gosh, the rationale. The treasury books basically are held and maintained by the master of the rationale. So the master rationale is actually a type of record, and that's its name in the archive of the Crown of Aragon. It's where all of the payments are recorded and also all of the specific revenues. So that's how I got to my interpretation of the last part of the probata, because if you look at line 14 on the document, then you can see how it's really got a resemblance to what we would see there in the probata. So this is exhausting. This probata is absolutely exhausting. Look at how much time I've had to talk about it. So now, so if the person's last name, this Berenguer, was somehow Relato, then maybe the consil on the third line could be a description of him, like he's a counselor, a member of the court. And then we would have the pro kind of being the second half of the kind of where it's coming from construction there. Oh my gosh, where the document is coming from, where it originated. It comes from this Counselor Berenguer de Relato, and it comes from the Meister Rationale, the Royal Treasury. Now, I don't think what I just said there is correct. I'm going to go with another option, which is that somehow Bernard de Pont, he did not write everything that he had intended to write. He left out the surname of Berenguer, and what he's saying is that this was related by the council, the king's council, and for the Meister Rationale. So there's going to be maybe action required by the Master Racional. So I don't know. It's just got me tied in knots, this probata. And the document itself looks like it was signed by Joan's Vice Chancellor, Franciscus Sacosta. At least that part's pretty clear. All right, now, what is this document about? It's definitely about money things. Seems as if there was somebody, maybe named Blay, who was supposed. Nope. Hold on. This Blay person, I think, is owed money by someone named Berenguer de Magnola, or Magolera is the person in the second line, and then we've got someone named Blay in line 7. So Blay is described as a milite, a knight. And then we've also got, I think, do we have somebody else named in here? Yeah, we have then in line, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. In line 10, we have somebody named Berenguer, and then we've got the letters Marsa. That person is identified as a procurator. Okay, but there's a macron over the Marsa. So would that be something like Manresa? What letters are being indicated by that macron? I'm not quite sure. And so there's a lot of people involved in this, and it's some kind of financial, like someone's supposed to get paid but they didn't. The word apoca appears a whole lot in this document. Its first instance is at the end of line 5, but then there's a lot of mention of you have to show the apoca, and the apoca is basically the receipt of the funds that have been paid. So this whole thing originated because someone was supposed to get paid and didn't, and now the court, Joan's officials, are trying to sort it out and telling people to get it done correctly. And that's what I got. I mean, yeah, I could push through and work with some of the AI output in order to get more detail on this, but I am not going to, because it just seems to be just really overly complicated for my purposes. The one thing I will say, though, about this document is that I might actually come back and really want to understand everything about this payment record and why it went wrong and what's supposed to be done. The reason is that it's Violant's chancellor who is acting as a scribe. I can't quite get my head around that one, other than to say that maybe they just operated as a team and they were kind of cross-trained and they could jump in, get something done. But this is Joan's Commune register. So how they divided their labor and organized their work is still getting me into all kinds of knots of confusion. But, we'll see what happens as we get into the rest of the year. We're not even halfway done yet. The halfway mark is coming up, but we're still a little bit a ways from it. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Historian's Notebook, Season 1, Molt cara compagnona. If you are leaving with more questions than you arrived with, I've done my job. Because remember, the motto of The Historian's Notebook is dissatisfaction guaranteed. Especially for all those economic historians out there. Ooh, you must be so mad at me right now that I didn't go deeper with this one. Well, visit the website to see an image of today's document and additional show notes, and listen again tomorrow to hear about the next day in the first year of the reign of King Joan I of Aragon and Queen Violante de Bar. In the meantime, take care.